High road behavior. Boy, understand this. People listen with their eyes, not with their ears. They don't care what you preach. What do? You can preach anything. I'm sure Penn State, U of I, got a lot of nice adages on the wall. However, 2 weeks ago I was in New York to do a program, and I walked into this. Kate went into my talk early to look at what I would call, for lack of a better term, an employee workroom, and it had all these successories on the walls. You know what successories? You know, excellence is, persistence is, love is, you know, peace is, or whatever. And so must have been 50 of them on the wall. So I asked this mid-level manager, what do you think about this? She said, it's garbage. I said, really, why? She said, management doesn't believe it. They just want us to read it. Now you have an us and. Does that promote peace and harmony or conflict? You bet. You bet. People listen with their eyes. If you're going to preach it, that's one thing. If you live it, that's the test. Okay? Now, within that, Daniel L. Jornt, the former chairman of Walgreens, said this about any business. He said, I'll quote him exactly, the success of any business depends entirely on the character of people conducting it. Depends entirely on the character of the people who conduct it. And isn't hindsight kind of a great teacher sometimes? What we learn as we look back, and those of us who are more seasoned veterans of life than some of you, have more to look back on and maybe learn the lessons and kind of put things in perspective. One of the lessons, and I've read this book 10 times in the last 30 years. This is the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. Here's what he wrote in 1726. Think about it as it affects your job and your institutions. He said, number one, it is necessary for me to be extremely frugal for some time till I pay back people what I owe them. Is that still good economics today, yes or no? Susie Orman and everybody else says what? Pay down debt. Pay down debt. Well, she didn't quote Ben. Number two, to endeavor to speak truth in every instance, to give nobody expectations that are not likely to be answered, but aim at sincerity in every word and action, the most amiable excellence in a human being. Number three, to apply myself industriously to whatever business I take in hand and not divert my mind from my business by any foolish project of growing suddenly rich. For hard work and patience are the surest means of plenty. And number four, I resolve to speak ill of no person whatever, not even in a matter of truth, but rather by some means excuse the faults I hear charged upon others, and upon proper occasions speak all the good that I know of everybody. 1726. Still valid? Still relatable today? Yes or no? You bet. Good business? You bet. Good for your institutions? You bet. How can this guy be so good? Look at all these remarks. Look at all these evaluations, etc. I'm hoping they're thinking maybe we ought to have some of our other professors sitting there and see what goes on. I'm hoping. Because I did get a letter from a kid that I taught in 1985, 2 weeks ago. 4-page letter. She got 4 kids, telling me what a wonderful course it was, etc. So I wanted to share this with my 34-year-old daughter. So I said, here, Meg, read this letter. What someone that your father taught in 1985 thinks of me. Here's what she does. So she takes it, and she's reading it, and I'm waiting. She reads it expressionless, folds it, puts it in the envelope, gives it to me, and says, of course she thinks this. You're not her father. Why, you little, perceptions determine attitudes, attitudes determine behavior. In a way, different roles, but values must be The sin. Because all of us got our values from where? Whatever form home took, right? You know, political values, religious values, ethnic values, that, you know, whether we have embraced them or discarded them, you know, they're still the basis of who, well, we are. I remember two things that my father vividly browbeat into me. Now, my father, full-blooded Sicilian father, I'm starting to date and drive. And he says to me, sit down. I'm going to tell you this once. You'll read my lips. He says, you do anything to tarnish the family name, and I'll kill you. And then he dug a hole in the backyard as a visual aid. You know, going out tonight? Oh, no. The second thing I remember him doing, how many of you have kids? All right, go home and do this. They'll love you for this one. Being in junior high or high school, and people would call on the phone for me, and he would answer, and he would say, hello, and they would say, hi, is Frank there? And he would say, yes, he is. Thanks for calling. Click. And I said, why did you do that? He said, they only want to know if you're home. They didn't ask to talk to you. So that was one of those things I vowed I'd never do to a kid of mine till 18 years ago. And my oldest was a senior in high school. She ran cross country, and as you may or may not know, cross country is a non-spectator sport. You see him start, you go out for dinner. You come back, and it was my kid running through the chute. I'm yelling, think scholarship, think money. But there's another reason why she joined the girls' cross-country team, because the girls' cross-country team travels with the boys' cross-country team. And I happened to be home that night, the phone rang. So I answer. Hello? And you hear this kid, hello? Yeah? Is Beth there, please? And I thought, oh, God. Should I do it? Yes, she is. Thanks for calling. My daughter went nuts, Did you get a name, Dad? Yes, name's Stupid. And when she stopped crying, I sat down with her and I said, you don't understand, Beth. I'm making memories for you, babe. Your grandfather did it to me. I do it to you. And now we've got grandkids, and I'm hearing my daughters use some of the same lines that my wife and I have used as they were growing up. And I turned to my wife, and I said the other day, he can take me now. The line continues. It's the process of how we understand behavior, how we understand religion. But as we look at it now, as you look back on some of those ways that you were raised and some of those stories, now they're funny, aren't they? How was it growing up? Wasn't so funny, was it? But didn't we think at the time that, the most feeble attempts, to try to instill values in us that we still, consciously or subconsciously, still deal with today, correct? Every decision you make goes back to that training. And we need to look at decision making as like throwing a rock in a pond. No matter how big or how small the decision is, no matter how big or how small the rock is, when that rock hits water, water is displaced. Agreed? When's the time to think about the decision of the rock? After you've thrown it or while it's in your hand? Here. Here. Because once it leaves your hands, it's too late. And sometimes you better hold. And I'm not a military strategist or political strategist, but aren't we still getting ripples in Iraq and Afghanistan from a rock that was thrown 11 years ago? What will be the ripples of Penn State? We don't even know yet all of them, do we? U of I. We don't even know. But you could have made a better decision 10 years ago at Penn State. You could have not falsified admission criteria. You could have not, but you decided to. Well, with decisions comes consequences, or what I call the PTP factor. What is your price to pay for what you want to do? And if you can't pay, you better walk away, because there's an absolute in life that, just like gravity, what goes around always comes around. Positively or negatively, it all comes around. You know, I don't have any answers for this, but I wonder if Penn State actually thought this would never come out. And if they actually thought that, how brazen, how egocentric to think that that type of behavior would never hit the press. And yet, there's been a ripple in the education community in the United States, agreed? For those who play sports against Penn State, to the coach who doesn't know if he's got a team, to scholarships being taken away, $60 million. You see the ripples? The ripples. And sometimes, see, that's the beauty of an organization like this. Because when you get stumped in a decision and you got it in your hand, call a colleague at a different college or university or whatever and say, look, I need your wisdom here. What am I not seeing in this decision? I believe in communal wisdom in making the best decision possible. We don't have everything we need to make the best decision possible mentally, intellectually, all the time. Agreed? We need to get others' wisdom. I think, you know, as I teach college, I learned a long time ago when I started teaching high school. It was a master teacher that taught me this. True education only happens when learning links up to people's experience. When it doesn't link up, people chuck it. Didn't we? If it doesn't link up, I mean, that's what lesson plans are supposed to be doing, linking up the information. So, see, knowledge, you know, I'll give you the Sicilian version of this. Knowledge is the stuff, wisdom is what you do with it. So you're going to give them the stuff, or you're going to empower them to get out into the world and make the world a better place because they've been to your institution. That's the challenge. It's a challenge for your faculty. It's a challenge for administrators. It's the wisdom. And look at imagine the wisdom that's in this room that hasn't even been tapped yet. Because of your experience, your education, where you are in the country, the size of your institution, et cetera, that really needs to be tapped in order to make you better at what you do. And sometimes, if you're not sure, put the rock down. Because it's much better to put it down than cause ripples that you weren't ready for. Because you're going to have to pay for those ripples, agreed? It doesn't make any difference why you threw the rock, the ripples are already there.